Ladies and gentlemen, rejection is one of the most challenging experiences anyone can face. It can feel like a deeply personal attack on your worth and character, especially when it involves someone or something you care about. But in truth, rejection is rarely a reflection of who you are. It's important to understand that rejection is not personal, it is merely a reflection of the other person's beliefs, fears, or limitations. The rejection you experience does not diminish your value. In fact, when you can separate yourself from the sting of rejection and stop internalizing it, you will discover how truly powerful and liberating it can be. The first step to overcoming rejection is realizing that it is not about you. People often reject others because of their own internal struggles, limitations, or fears. It could be due to something unrelated to you, perhaps their own insecurities, past experiences, or even a simple misalignment of values. When you accept that rejection is not a personal judgment of your worth, you can let go of the negative emotions it triggers. This is not to say that rejection doesn't hurt, it absolutely can, but when you understand that it has more to do with the other person's state of being than your own, it becomes easier to detach from the pain. Another crucial aspect of handling rejection is to recognize that your worth is not defined by someone else's approval or acceptance. We often tie our self-esteem to the opinions of others, allowing external validation to dictate how we feel about ourselves. When we experience rejection, we feel a sharp sense of failure because we've been conditioned to believe that approval from others equals our value. But when you realize that your worth is intrinsic and doesn't rely on others' opinions, rejection becomes less about you and more about the limitations or preferences of the person rejecting you. This shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering. The pain of rejection can be a doorway to self-discovery and growth. Instead of allowing it to consume you with feelings of inadequacy or despair, you can choose to use it as an opportunity to reflect on what you truly want and need in life. Rejection often brings clarity. It can help you see the situations, relationships, or goals that may not align with your true self. Rather than beating yourself up for being rejected, ask yourself what you can learn from the experience. What aspects of yourself or your goals need refinement? How can you grow stronger from this challenge? Rejection can lead to a deeper understanding of who you are, what you value, and what you need to do to move forward. Silence is a powerful tool when it comes to dealing with rejection. Often we feel compelled to respond, to argue, or to defend ourselves when faced with rejection. We try to convince the other person that we are worthy of their acceptance, but in doing so, we only deplete ourselves emotionally. Instead of reacting, choose silence. Silence isn't about being passive or indifferent. It's about choosing not to engage in a power struggle or to waste your energy defending your worth. By staying silent, you communicate that you do not need anyone's approval to validate your existence. You show that you are comfortable with yourself, and that rejection doesn't shake your sense of identity. Silence can also provide the necessary space to process your emotions and regain composure. When faced with rejection, our first impulse is often to lash out or try to change the situation. However, this reaction is typically driven by emotional turmoil rather than rational thinking. By choosing silence, you give yourself time to step back and reflect on the situation. You stop yourself from reacting impulsively and give yourself the space to heal. Silence allows you to turn inward and focus on your own emotions, helping you regain your sense of peace before you make any decisions or respond. When you refuse to internalize rejection, you regain control of your emotions. Rejection can feel like a storm of negativity, but when you refuse to let it consume you, you hold the power to rise above it. By recognizing that rejection is not a reflection of your worth, you protect yourself from emotional devastation. You stop giving the person or situation that rejected you the power to control how you feel. This mental and emotional autonomy is one of the most powerful tools you can possess. It allows you to move through life with confidence and resilience, knowing that external circumstances do not have the power to define you. In moments of rejection, it's easy to fall into self-pity and self-doubt. You may question your abilities, your value, and your place in the world. However, when you realize that rejection is often an opportunity for redirection, it becomes easier to see it as a positive force rather than a negative one. Rejection can be a sign that something better is waiting for you, something more aligned with who you are and what you need. Instead of seeing rejection as a setback, consider it a step toward the right path. Sometimes what we want isn't always what's best for us, and rejection serves as a gentle nudge in the right direction. Ultimately, the most powerful way to respond to rejection is by maintaining your sense of self-worth and emotional balance. When you stop taking rejection personally, you shift the focus from the external to the internal. Your sense of identity is no longer dependent on someone else's acceptance or judgment. You begin to realize that you are complete just as you are, and no external event can take that away from you. Rejection becomes less painful because you understand that it has nothing to do with your value. Instead, it is simply a reflection of someone else's perspective, and their rejection does not diminish your greatness. Rejection is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define you. By embracing the understanding that rejection is not personal, you free yourself from its emotional grip. You stop seeking validation from others and start validating yourself. This shift in perspective empowers you to move forward with confidence, knowing that your worth is not determined by anyone's approval or rejection. You have the power to rise above rejection, learn from it, and continue on your journey with greater clarity and strength. Rejection can feel like a punch to the gut, leaving you breathless and questioning your worth. It's easy to internalize the sting, thinking that it's a reflection of your value or your abilities. We live in a world that constantly pushes us to seek external validation, whether it's through the approval of others, social acceptance, or achieving external milestones. We tie our self-esteem to the opinions of others, making us vulnerable to the pain of rejection. But the truth is, external validation is fleeting and unreliable. To find true peace and fulfillment, you must learn to detach from the need for approval from others and shift your focus inward. When you rely on external validation, you are placing your self-worth in the hands of others. It's a dangerous game because people's opinions can change in an instant. What one person thinks of you today may be completely different tomorrow. This creates an emotional roller coaster, where your confidence fluctuates based on the approval or disapproval of others. One day you might feel on top of the world because someone praised you, and the next day you might feel deflated because of a rejection or criticism. This inconsistency in validation can be exhausting, leaving you constantly searching for reassurance. The key to breaking free from this cycle is realizing that your worth does not depend on what others think of you. You are inherently valuable, regardless of external circumstances. Learning to detach from external validation begins with understanding that your worth is intrinsic, not conditional. It's important to shift your mindset and embrace the fact that you are enough just as you are. Your value doesn't come from your achievements, your appearance, or how others perceive you. It comes from within, from your unique qualities, your strength, and your ability to navigate life's challenges. When you truly internalize this truth, you no longer need external validation to feel good about yourself. You stop looking for approval from others and start looking inward for validation. This shift is empowering as it frees you from the emotional roller coaster of seeking approval and allows you to stand firmly in your own sense of self-worth. This doesn't mean that you stop caring about how others feel or that you become indifferent to feedback. Constructive feedback and support from others are important for growth. But when you are no longer dependent on their validation to feel good about yourself, you can take their feedback without it affecting your self-esteem. You can hear criticism without feeling devastated or inflated praise without letting it define you. Your sense of self-worth becomes grounded in your own values, beliefs, and actions, not in the opinions of others. Detaching from external validation also means learning to set healthy boundaries. When you are constantly seeking approval, It can be easy to overextend yourself in an attempt to please others. You might say yes to things you don't want to do, sacrifice your own needs, or push yourself beyond your limits just to gain the approval of others. But when you no longer rely on their validation, you can set boundaries that prioritize your own well-being. You can say no without guilt and make decisions that align with your values, not with the desire to please others. This sense of personal agency is freeing because it puts you in control of your life and your emotional state. The need for external validation often stems from a place of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, or fear of not being loved. When we base our self-worth on what others think of us, we are essentially giving them power over our emotions. But when you learn to detach from external validation, you reclaim that power. You stop letting the fear of others' opinions control your actions and decisions. Instead, you start making choices that reflect your true self, your desires, and your values. This shift from fear to empowerment is transformative, as it allows you to live authentically without constantly worrying about what others might think. Another benefit of detaching from external validation is that it allows you to cultivate a deep sense of inner peace. When your self-worth is not tied to external approval, you stop relying on others to make you feel complete. You begin to recognize that you are already whole and that you don't need anyone else to define your value. This sense of inner peace is powerful because it comes from within. It's not dependent on the opinions or actions of others, making it more stable and consistent. You can face challenges, setbacks, or even rejection without losing your sense of self because your inner peace is rooted in your own strength, not in external circumstances. Detaching from external validation also opens the door to authentic connection. When you stop seeking approval from others, you begin to connect with people on a deeper level. You no longer need to put on a mask or pretend to be something you're not in order to gain their approval. Instead, you can show up as your true self, confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. This authenticity attracts people who resonate with your energy and values, and it fosters more meaningful and genuine relationships. When you no longer seek validation from others, you begin to form connections based on mutual respect, shared interests, and true understanding. Rejection can strike deeply, leaving a wound that can be difficult to heal. It has a way of making you question your worth, your actions, and even your place in the world. But what if I told you that rejection doesn't have to have the power to hurt you? What if, instead of seeing rejection as an end, you could reframe it as a powerful tool for growth and self-empowerment? The truth is, rejection is often more about the other person's limitations than it is about you. It is a reflection of their own fears, insecurities, or circumstances, not an indication of your value or worth. By learning to view rejection through this lens, you can stop internalizing it and instead use it as a stepping stone to becoming the strongest version of yourself. When faced with rejection, many people make the mistake of reacting immediately. The impulse is to explain yourself, justify your actions, or even try to change the other person's mind. You may feel the need to prove that you are worthy of their time, attention, or love. But this is where the real power lies: in silence. Silence doesn't mean weakness or indifference. It means you have the strength to stand firm in your truth without needing to explain yourself to anyone. When you respond to rejection with grace and silence, you are not feeding into the negativity. Instead, you are taking control of the situation and asserting your own sense of worth without the need for validation from anyone else. In moments of rejection, your response can either empower or disempower you. If you choose to react defensively or emotionally, you hand over your power to someone else's perception of you. However, when you choose silence and composure, you reclaim your power. Your silence communicates a quiet confidence, a sense of self-assurance that doesn't need words to be understood. By holding your ground and not reacting impulsively, you show that you are not affected by rejection. You demonstrate that your worth is not dependent on someone else's approval or acceptance. You become a force of calm, strength, and emotional maturity, and people are drawn to that energy. One of the most powerful tools in overcoming rejection is understanding that rejection has nothing to do with who you are as a person. It is a reflection of the other person's emotional state, their limitations, and their inability to see your value. When you truly understand this, you begin to detach from the situation emotionally. You stop allowing someone else's rejection to diminish your self-worth. Instead of ruminating on why you were rejected or what you could have done differently, you focus on your own growth and inner strength. You shift the focus back to yourself, recognizing that you are whole, complete, and worthy of love and respect, regardless of someone else's inability to see that. Another essential part of rising above rejection is recognizing that you don't need anyone's validation to feel complete. When you rely on external validation for your self-worth, you give others the power to determine how you feel about yourself. Rejection becomes a threat because it challenges your sense of identity. But when you shift your mindset and no longer rely on others' approval, rejection loses its power. You stop seeking approval because you know deep down that you are already worthy. You start to cultivate self-love, and this inner validation becomes the foundation of your confidence and self-assurance. Silence can also be a powerful form of self-care. When you stop reacting to rejection, you preserve your energy and emotional well-being. You stop the cycle of overthinking, self-doubt, and self-criticism that often follows rejection. Instead, you focus on healing and reconnecting with your own inner peace. By choosing to respond with silence, you give yourself the space to process your emotions, reflect on the situation, and move forward with clarity. This emotional detachment is a form of self-love. It's the recognition that you deserve peace and inner calm, no matter what external circumstances arise. Furthermore, silence speaks volumes about your emotional intelligence. People who have learned to handle rejection with grace are often emotionally mature. They understand that rejection is not a reflection of their worth. It's simply a part of life. It doesn't have to define them or derail their progress. Instead, they use rejection as an opportunity to learn, grow, and evolve. They reflect on the situation, make any necessary adjustments, and move forward with even greater strength and clarity. This level of emotional intelligence doesn't come from being unaffected by rejection. It comes from being able to process it, learn from it, and not let it derail your confidence or sense of self. Ultimately, the key to overcoming rejection is to detach from the need for validation and the fear of being judged. When you stop seeking validation from others, you take back control of your emotional state. You no longer give anyone the power to define your worth. You are the one who gets to decide how you feel about yourself. Rejection no longer has the power to diminish your sense of self. Instead, you rise above it with grace, confidence, and emotional strength. You become someone who is not defined by external circumstances but by the power and confidence that radiates from within. This inner strength is unshakable, and it cannot be diminished by rejection or the opinions of others. When you stop reacting to rejection, you start to reclaim your energy, your self-worth, and your peace of mind. You begin to see rejection not as a personal attack, but as an opportunity to show up stronger, more resilient, and more confident than before. Rejection no longer has the power to hold you back. It becomes just another chapter in your story of growth and personal empowerment. When you choose to rise above it, you become unstoppable. Rejection can feel like a sudden blow, a sharp pain that cuts deeper than any physical wound. The sting of being turned away, dismissed, or ignored by someone we care about or seek validation from can seem overwhelming. It triggers a cascade of emotions: hurt, confusion, self-doubt, leading us to question our worth and place in the world. But what if, instead of being consumed by these feelings, we could transform rejection into a powerful opportunity for growth and self-discovery? What if we could turn the tables, using rejection as a stepping stone to empower ourselves and rise above the negativity? When we experience rejection, we often feel the impulse to react. We want to defend ourselves, explain why we are worthy, or convince the other person that they've made a mistake. We think that by explaining ourselves or pleading our case, we can change their perception of us and win back their approval. However, this response only feeds into the cycle of seeking external validation. It keeps us dependent on others for our sense of worth, making us vulnerable to their judgment. In truth, the most powerful response to rejection lies in saying nothing at all. The moment you choose to respond with silence, you regain control of the situation. You no longer allow someone else's rejection to dictate your emotional state. Instead, you assert your inner strength by refusing to engage in the drama and negativity that may surround the rejection. Silence is not about weakness or indifference. It is a sign of immense power and emotional intelligence. When you choose silence, you communicate that you are unmoved by the other person's judgment. You don't need to prove your worth, and you don't need anyone else's approval to feel confident and secure. Silence allows you to maintain your dignity and self-respect. It sends a message that you are grounded, that your worth is not defined by someone else's opinion of you, and that you are perfectly content in your own skin. In a world that constantly pushes us to speak louder, demand attention, and defend ourselves at every turn, silence becomes a form of rebellion, a rebellion against the external pressures that try to diminish your value and force you into submission. When you choose silence, you also create space to process your emotions. Rejection can stir up deep feelings of disappointment and hurt, but responding impulsively or defensively can make those emotions even more intense. Instead of reacting out of pain or frustration, silence gives you the opportunity to step back, reflect, and regain composure. It allows you to move beyond the initial emotional reaction and tap into your inner peace. When you choose silence, you create a barrier between your emotional state and the external circumstances. You regain control over how you respond, choosing not to let someone else's actions dictate your emotional well-being. This pause is an essential part of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to take a step back, acknowledge your feelings, and then choose to respond from a place of clarity and calm. In those moments when rejection threatens to pull you into a downward spiral, silence acts as a shield. It protects your energy, preventing you from becoming ensnared in negativity or self-doubt. By refusing to engage in the cycle of justification or self-explanation, you preserve your energy for more meaningful pursuits. Instead of wasting your time trying to convince someone else of your worth, you invest in yourself. You focus on your personal growth, your goals, and your emotional healing. Silence gives you the power to reclaim your focus and channel your energy toward things that truly matter to you. This shift in focus strengthens your sense of self and empowers you to rise above the rejection. The impact of silence goes beyond the immediate moment of rejection. When you choose silence, you cultivate a sense of inner peace and self-assurance that radiates outward. People begin to sense your confidence, your inner strength, and your ability to handle challenges with grace. They may not understand why you are unshaken by rejection, but they will respect you for it. Silence, in this sense, becomes a magnet for respect and admiration. Your composure in the face of adversity speaks volumes, even when you say nothing at all. It's a quiet demonstration of your resilience and emotional maturity. As you continue to handle rejection with grace, you build a reputation for being someone who is unflappable, someone whose value cannot be diminished by external forces. Silence also allows you to detach from the need for external validation. We live in a world that constantly pressures us to seek approval from others, whether it's through social media, personal relationships, or professional achievements. But true confidence comes from within. When you rely on others to tell you that you are worthy, you give away your power. You become dependent on their judgment, and that makes you vulnerable to rejection. Silence, however, allows you to break free from this cycle. You no longer need anyone's approval to feel validated. Your sense of self-worth becomes intrinsic, grounded in the belief that you are enough just as you are. When you detach from the need for validation, rejection no longer has the same emotional impact. It becomes just another experience in your journey, one that doesn't define you or diminish your value. Choosing silence in the face of rejection is not about avoiding difficult emotions or pretending that the situation doesn't affect you. It's about choosing to take control of your emotional response and not letting rejection define your sense of self. It's about standing firm in your truth, even when others may fail to see it. When you embrace silence, you refuse to engage in the drama and negativity that often accompanies rejection. Instead, you create space for healing, growth, and self-reflection. You move forward with confidence, knowing that your worth is not determined by someone else's judgment. Rejection can feel like a sharp blow to the heart. But what if you could turn that moment of hurt into a stepping stone toward your true power? The truth is, rejection has nothing to do with you. It is a reflection of someone else's limitations, insecurities, or circumstances. Yet, so many people internalize rejection, believing it defines their worth. They try to seek validation, explain themselves, or even fight to be seen. But the real key to overcoming rejection isn't in reacting or chasing approval. It's in the transformative power of silence and inner strength. When you learn to rise above rejection without uttering a single word, you shift the energy around you and reclaim your power. The first step in embracing this silence is to understand that rejection is not personal. It is often more about the other person's fears, judgments, or emotional state than it is about who you are. When you accept that their rejection speaks more about them than it does about your value, you free yourself from the need to prove yourself. You stop trying to convince someone of your worth or defend your actions. Instead, you focus on your own journey and continue to live in alignment with your highest self. Rejection loses its sting when you stop assigning it the power to dictate your emotions. One of the most powerful tools you can use to handle rejection gracefully is the strength found in silence. When someone rejects you, especially in a public or emotional way, it's easy to feel the impulse to react. But this is when the real power lies in saying nothing. Silence isn't an absence of power, it's the ultimate form of it. It's the ability to stand strong, unmoved, and unaffected by someone else's judgment. In moments of rejection, when you hold your ground and refuse to engage in defense or confrontation, you communicate something far stronger than words could ever convey. You demonstrate that you don't need to explain yourself because your worth is inherent and unshakable. To truly harness the power of silence, you must first cultivate the belief that your inner reality shapes the world around you. When you believe in yourself deeply, the opinions and actions of others lose their hold on you. You no longer feel the need to explain your actions, seek validation, or convince anyone of your value. Instead, you embody the energy of someone who knows their worth. This internal confidence, radiating from within, speaks louder than any external words or actions ever could. Others will feel it before they even know what you're doing, and that subtle yet undeniable shift will often leave them stunned, unsure, and even in awe. Energy rather than words is what truly captures attention and influences others. Confidence is not about loud declarations or trying to force your presence on others. True confidence is quiet, calm, and unwavering. It's the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you are enough just as you are. People will notice this confidence, and it will disarm them more effectively than any heated argument or desperate plea. When you remain silent in the face of rejection, your energy communicates that you are not defined by someone else's judgment. You are in control of your emotions, your life, and your choices. Your silent strength is an energy that demands respect, even from those who once dismissed you. Letting go of the need for external validation is a critical shift in mindset that will protect you from the pain of rejection. When you stop seeking approval, rejection no longer carries the weight it once did. You stop measuring your worth against the opinions of others and instead build a solid foundation of self-assurance. This inner confidence doesn't need validation from others, it doesn't need anyone to tell you that you're good enough. You simply know, deep down, that you are worthy of love, respect, and success. This detachment from external validation allows you to move through life with a sense of freedom and purpose, unaffected by the fleeting opinions of others. When you cultivate this silent strength, you become a magnet for respect. People who once rejected you may find themselves drawn to you not because of what you've said, but because of who you've become. Your growth and transformation are undeniable, and this can sometimes be more powerful than any confrontation or defense. When you refuse to be shaken by rejection and continue to walk in your truth, it becomes impossible for others to ignore your resilience. They may start to see you in a new light, recognizing your strength and the unspoken power you carry. This shift doesn't require a single word or explanation. It happens through your energy, your presence, and the way you hold yourself in the face of adversity. In moments when rejection knocks you down, remember this: you don't have to fight back with words or force. You don't need to seek validation, prove yourself, or defend your worth. The true power lies in your ability to stand firm in silence, knowing that rejection has no power over you. It is simply a reflection of someone else's limitations, not a reflection of who you truly are. By embracing your inner confidence, detaching from external validation, and walking through life with silent strength, you will not only rise above rejection, you will crush it. Your silence, your growth, and your unwavering self-belief will be the loudest statement you can make. Rejection is a painful experience that many of us have faced at one point or another. It can feel like a personal attack, a blow to your ego, or a reflection of your worth. But in truth, rejection has nothing to do with who you are or your value. It is an external experience shaped by the limitations, fears, or judgments of the person doing the rejecting. When you begin to see rejection through this lens, you can rise above it and realize that it's not an end, but rather a stepping stone on your path to becoming a stronger, more resilient individual. The first step to overcoming rejection lies in understanding that it is not personal. We are conditioned to believe that when someone rejects us, it reflects something about us, but this is not the case. Often, rejection stems from the other person's own insecurities, unhealed wounds, or fears. Their rejection is merely a projection of their inner world, not an accurate reflection of your worth. When you understand this, you can release the emotional attachment to the rejection and stop allowing it to dictate your self-worth. You are not defined by someone else's judgment or inability to see your value. You have the power to control your response, and that's where true empowerment lies. One of the most transformative tools you can use when faced with rejection is silence. This may sound counterintuitive, especially when emotions are running high, but silence is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect and strength. When you're rejected, the natural impulse might be to explain yourself, defend your actions, or even try to change the other person's mind. But this only engages you in a power struggle that leaves you emotionally drained. Instead, choose to respond with silence. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent, but rather choosing not to feed into the negativity or the need to prove yourself. In silence, you hold your power. You stand firm in your worth without needing to explain or justify anything to anyone. By remaining silent, you send a message louder than any words could convey. You communicate that you are not dependent on others' opinions or approval to validate your existence. When you stop reacting to rejection with words or defensive behavior, you begin to embody a sense of inner peace and self-assurance. Your silence speaks volumes about your confidence and your ability to handle any situation with grace and composure. It shows that you are not shaken by someone's inability to see your worth, and it establishes you as someone who operates from a place of self-respect and strength. Silence is also a way to shift your focus from the external rejection to your internal state. Rather than obsessing over the rejection or replaying it in your mind, you begin to focus on your inner strength and power. This shift is crucial because when you focus on your internal reality, you reclaim your energy and sense of self. You stop giving away your power to someone else's actions and instead turn inward, cultivating a deep sense of self-love, worth, and inner peace. This shift allows you to rise above rejection and not let it dictate your emotional state. When you choose to focus on your own growth and well-being, you no longer need external validation to feel complete. The way you handle rejection is a reflection of your emotional intelligence and self-awareness. People who are emotionally mature understand that rejection doesn't diminish them, it's simply a part of life. They don't take it personally, and they don't internalize it as a reflection of their value. Instead, they use it as an opportunity to reflect, learn, and grow. When you are emotionally intelligent, you recognize that rejection is often an opportunity to reassess your goals, your boundaries, and your self-worth. It doesn't knock you down, it elevates you. Rejection is simply a moment in time, and how you respond to it determines whether you allow it to define you or empower you. Another important aspect of rising above rejection is detaching from the need for external validation. We live in a world where validation from others often determines our sense of self-worth. But true empowerment comes when you no longer need others to validate your existence. When you learn to detach from the need for approval, rejection loses its power over you. You stop looking for others to give you the affirmation you seek, and instead focus on affirming your own value. This detachment creates emotional freedom, allowing you to stand strong in the face of rejection without letting it diminish your self-esteem. You are able to walk through life with the confidence that you are enough, just as you are. Rejection can be a powerful catalyst for growth. When faced with rejection, you have the opportunity to reassess your goals, beliefs, and values. Rather than allowing rejection to discourage you, use it as an opportunity to evolve. It's in these moments of challenge that we often find our greatest strength. By choosing to rise above rejection, you embrace your own personal power and resilience. You show the world that you are not defined by external circumstances, but by your own internal strength. You become a magnet for respect and admiration, not because you seek it, but because you embody it through your actions, your confidence, and your unwavering belief in yourself. Ultimately, the most powerful way to handle rejection is by refusing to let it shake your sense of self-worth. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You are already worthy, already enough. Rejection is simply a part of life, a momentary experience that holds no power over you unless you allow it. When you choose to respond with silence, strength, and emotional intelligence, you rise above the rejection and move forward with even greater confidence and clarity. You show the world that you are unshaken, unbothered, and unstoppable.